Good morning, my name is Jacob Folger. I'm an artist sculptor, and I am going to show you today how to take this stone, a stone like this, and turn it into like a little moss tree and garden. So it's a fun little project, and let's get started right away. So first I'm working with a stone. It's nice if it can stand up on its own. If you can find one like this that will stand up on its own. It's nice if it's has some natural markings on it, striations, things like that. You can find stones like this down by a creek, around a lake, any kind of water source, in the woods. You can look around, and you also can buy them in stone yards sometimes and that sort of thing. And then the stone is going to have to be sealed. You can seal it with all kinds of different things. You can use varnish, polyurethane, acrylic. You also can paint it. Of course, if you paint it, that will obscure the natural look of the stone. But the idea basically is to take away the porosity of the stone so that the clay will stick to it better. So really anything you want to use to do that, you can use spray polyurethane, spray sealers, anything like that. You can paint on something. You might have acrylic sealer, acrylic medium, or something like that. You can use a brush and put it on. That's what I use. The main thing is, if you use a brush, if you use a paintbrush, make sure that you clean it after you're done, because that material, any of those materials, if they harden on the brush, it will ruin the brush. So just keep that in mind. The first part we're going to do here is the tree. Now I'm working in polymer clay. This project is for polymer clay. The clay that I'm using is Sculpey 3. I'm going to put a tool and supply list and a baking list, baking instructions on the video description beneath the video. And the baking instructions will be for polymer clay. Now you have to knead the clay like I'm doing right now for a few minutes, and it's called conditioning. It gets all the parts in the working together in the clay so that when you bake it, it becomes really hard and works the way it's supposed to. And then what I do first is I start off with a ball. So I'm going to roll it into a ball like this, and then I'm going to roll it with my hands at a slight angle, creating kind of a cone shape. And I'm going to just take it a little ways, like about there. Now I'm going to flatten the end just by pinching like this. You notice my fingers kind of going up the trunk of the tree, and that gives it a nice even. It keeps the trunk of the tree uniform. So we got it basically like that at this point. Okay, I needed some scissors. So I'm going to take some scissors here, and I'm going to make a snip for the roots. 2 snips, so I've got 3 sections there. And I'm going to do the same at the top, and that's for the branches. Now I'm going to start pulling out the roots here, and just sort of forming them slightly, a little bit. What I'm going for here, for me, is kind of a gnarled old tree that's been around for a really long time that's growing out of this rock. That's kind of where I'm going with this. And so I'm going to set it up here and kind of just shake it a little bit as I'm pressing down. And that's going to kind of set it into the stone. See how I'm doing that? Now if I want it to be a little bit taller, I can just sort of gently squeeze it, and when I do that it sort of gets a little taller there. Let me turn around here. Now at this point, you can take like a piece of clay about this big, maybe a little bit smaller, like this, and you can put it right there, and then blend it in. And what I mean by blend is to take the clay from the part I just put on and draw it down to join the other one, the other part, and it just kind of bonds it to it. What that does is it creates a little shoulder. Do you notice how it goes like that? It's something that you can do that kind of makes the your sculpture look more natural. Another thing you can do is you can turn the lower end of the root a little bit towards you or the other way. We kind of want a natural look here. We want the tree to look natural. I have a lot of sculpting videos for trees on my channel. You might want to go look around, see what there is, and see if you see something you like. Let's blend that in. And you can add, you know, little bits of roots. You can, starting with a little ball of clay about that big, you can roll it so it's a little pointy like that. And then you can just add it on to the other, you know, to the root. Like that. And it's starting to kind of take on the shape of a nice tree. Going to put a little root there. Another thing that I do frequently, now I'm going to work mostly on the front here just for demonstration purposes. Later I'll go back and probably finish up the tree myself later. What you can do is you can take you know, a sculpting tool like this. You can find these online, these tools, and just do a Google search on wood sculpting tools, and you can just put in like a knot hole in the tree, just sort of carve it in there. Like that. This looks kind of natural doing that. I think it's nice. I do it a lot with my trees. And then at the top you can just smooth it out, because the scissors sort of made marks there. You see that? You can you know, just smooth it with your thumb or a finger or a tool. Another thing you can do is you can take a small bit of clay, a round piece of clay, and flatten it out like that, and put it in the center there. And then blend it into all three branches, and that will make it stronger, because that's the scissors can kind of mess with that a little bit. So I usually do that. Now I'm going to show you something also that brings the trees, makes them just a little bit more on the natural side. If you take it and just push it, I mean, you could leave it going straight up, but I try to show people how to try to create form, because I am an artist sculptor. I'm not really a crafts person, so I'm always trying to, this is an art channel, I'm trying to teach art. So I'm just trying to show people kind of, you know, my approach to doing certain things, and one of them is trying to find artistic form or create that. So so I'm moving the tree over up here that way, and now I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to hold it, it's still there, and I'm going to take my other finger and press it back the other way. And you see that it really almost instantly adds life to the piece, to the tree. And that's something you can try. And so, you know, you could run the roots any way you want. We're going to leave mine here like that. And then I'm going to show you how to add some texture to the tree. I'm using another tool here. This one's just a little bit sharper on this end here. It's another wood sculpting tool. And I'm just going to basically carve in little lines. But kind of, if you notice how I'm turning and curving the lines and the tool, I'm kind of like paying attention to how I do this. It's not just, you know, scratching it. And I kind of want to make that also an artistic thing as well. And it's curving down around the knot hole. Now while I'm doing this, I want to talk a little bit about this type of thing here. This is called a bell jar. That's a bell jar. And when you're done, you might want to consider getting a bell jar for your sculpture. Of course, you kind of have to make your sculpture first so you know what size bell jar to get. And we're going to put moss, live moss in here, and it would probably do okay, but you would have to water it fairly frequently. So if you put it in a bell jar, which kind of put a bell jar over it, it will create basically a terrarium setting, and the moss is going to do a lot better. I have a number of terrariums in my home that I made and that are doing very well, very healthy. The moss is very healthy. I'm talking from experience. So, you know, keep that in mind. If you get a bell jar and cover it, you won't have to water it near as much, and the moss will be much happier. Okay, now I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm just going to do it there. And then what I do is there might be a little bit of hair that is created, clay hair that is created from that, so I'll just pat it gently, like that. Now, also for this project, it's going to require some wire. You can also, instead of buying wire, it's not that expensive though, it's like $5 for like a 10-yard spool. You can also use straightened paper clips for this, what I'm telling you right here. And you'd probably want to use the large size paper clips. What we're going to do here is I'm just going to show you how to put wire in the top of the tree to hold the moss better. So you just cut off a piece, cut off, you want 3 pieces really. This is 16 gauge, just galvanized wire. I mean, it could be any kind of wire really, but 16 gauge is a good one. And then you just basically put it in the top, and you want it sticking maybe a 1/4 inch above the branches. And put one here. Let's make them all about the same height. So when you bake this and you put the moss on, the pins, or these wire pins, will hold the moss a lot better. It'll hold it in place a lot better. So that's where we are with the tree. And again, you could run the roots down, you could make it taller, you could make it straighter, you could do whatever you want. But that's how I want to show you how to do that, because I want you to kind of get an idea for artistic form. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some clay here, and I'm going to move the camera down slightly. And we're going to create basically like a little garden surround with the clay. So what I'm doing is I'm squeezing it to about the shape I want. And then now I'm going to roll it to and fro. Let me just move this back out of the way here. Now I use black clay because I like the way the finishes that I do look on it. You don't have to use black clay, but I'm just used to using it. That's what I've got on hand, and I wanted to do this video to show you. Once you get it to something about like this, you can put it on the table. That will, when you roll it on the table, it will keep it very uniform. Now moss does not require soil, but if you use soil, you want to use maybe some kind of organic soil. And the reason why you would use it is because it brings moisture to the moss. So we got this to about this size here. I'm going to bring this back. And this is small. I mean, you can make this any size. This is for demonstration purposes. But, this is definitely a little bit small, on the small side. But I'm going to bring this up like that to so it's kind of almost climbing up the wall of the stone. And then I'm going to press it into that like that, and then down at the same time. So I'm kind of blending it into the stone. It's a lot better than just butting for example, if just butting it against it like that, it's going to be harder to get it to bond than if you do what I just did, where you bring it up like that and then press down and see how it kind of meshes in with it. It's going to be a lot more solid if you do it that way. And then without making a huge mess, keeping in mind this is black clay, so if I start blending it into the stone, it'll obscure everything. Just carefully push it into the stone. Okay, and one thing that I did just when I went off camera is I moved it over to a piece of paper, because it will stick to surfaces, and if you want to move it around, it's much better on just like a piece of paper, and you can just inspect your work going all the way around. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fill this in here and put like a little floor in there. And so basically you want to need some clay. Roll it kind of into a ball. Let's at least get it started. And then start to flatten it out. I might need a little bit more, but let's see how this does. These are really, really beautiful, these little gardens. So then I just lay it in there and start moving it in with my fingers. Show you here, I'm bonding it kind of blending it into the wall. Like that, blending it in, blending it into the stone. Let me get a little bit more. I don't think I'd want the floor there to be much less than maybe 3/16 of an inch thick. I don't think I'd want it much less than that. And then I'll just tell you that there's going to be some blending to do underneath, but if you did it before you cooked it the first time, you can cook it more than once, and that's or bake it more than once. You would stand the chance of it falling apart. Obviously, if you pick this up and turn it over and start working on the bottom, you know, it could fall apart while you're trying to do that. So, so you would bake it and then just turn it over, and you'll see. I'll show you actually. I'm not going to bake this because obviously it's not going to be done by the end of the video. I'm going to do this for demonstration purposes. You can see the bottom there. You can take, after you bake it the first time, you can take clay and fill that in and then bake it again. So you can see that. And I'll just take my tool here and just, you know, fill this in, blend it in, get it all blended nicely. And the floor can be as smooth as you want it to be. It's up to you. It is going to be covered in moss, so it's up to you, of course. And then you can also make the walls themselves higher if you want by squeezing them, which will of course make them thinner, and then also raise the height. This height is fine for me though, I think. And you want to make sure that all kinds of, you know, cracks and crevices are filled, because, you know, this is going to be holding a plant. You're going to be watering it. You don't want it to be leaking. There you go. So filling all the little cracks and crevices, making sure everything is blended and bonded well to the stone. And we're getting there now. You can you know, finish this any way you want. You can paint it with acrylics later if you want. I'm going to show you how I do my bronze finish on it, because I think it's really a pretty finish, and I think you got to see it. And I do show this a lot on some of my other videos. To me, you know, creatively. I picture a tree as something that is kind of bronze. It's just something that's sort of in my head. So when I do a tree, I usually do it in bronze. I finish it in bronze. This is Ex Pigments. I'll put that also on the tool and supply list. It's antique bronze with a little bit of gold mixed in. I dip my finger into the powder, swirl it once or twice, and then I just apply it to the tree. And you can also apply it to the garden if you want. It tends to look better if it's applied with a finger, but I will also use a brush to get the parts that I can't reach with my finger. And again, I'm just doing this side because I'm going to want to work on this later. And I may very well put this in my art shop, and you may like to visit my art shop, by the way. It's got a lot of things in it, all kinds of things, and you might like to see. And the address for it will be on the end of the video, and then also in the video information. If you do a really good job of bonding the clay to the stone, when you bake it, it will be pretty solid. I have not had a problem with these things falling apart on me, and I have a very busy studio. There's a lot going on, and I have an enormous amount of sculpture in here, all kinds of things like this, getting bumped around on a regular basis. And I have not had a problem with these things breaking on me. So, of course, you know, it is a sculpture, and you want to consider that when you handle it. And then what I'll do is I'll just take a brush and get a little bit on it, dab it off, and just touch up. This has got a little bit of purple on it from an earlier project, so I'll wipe that off on a rag and just catch it, you know, the roots where I missed with my finger. Okay, so we have a little bit of moss here. I just borrowed from one of my terrariums. This moss is Fern Moss. It's low drought, but there's other kinds that are more low drought. You definitely want a low drought, something that's not going to dry very easily, that can do well in more, you know, dry circumstances. And but this is actually pretty good. The nice thing about this is it is very pretty. It has little fern-shaped tendrils on it. Just put that up on the pins there. And once you have your moss up there, I'm not going to cut this because I don't want to mess with it, but, well, maybe a little bit. You can trim it like that, just to get it to look a little bit more trimmed anyways. And then you can also, you know, put some in the garden. And when you're putting it in the garden, you really don't want to cram it in. You want it to have a loose fit. Otherwise, it could die around the edges or turn brown around the edges. And while it's nice to have tendrils climbing up like that, it's okay. But if they're hanging over and out like this, you might want to pull them in. Just pull them in with the rest of the moss in there. And there you go. That's basically how you do it. And you're going to have baking instructions for the garden in the video description, also in the below the video. And there might be some other video recommendations in there also. And that is basically how you do it. Again, a bell jar is recommended. This is a bell jar. You can, once you have your piece and you've measured it out and you know what size you need, then you can go ahead and order it. Get it online or at a department store or something like that. You can usually find them. and that will keep everything a lot happier, the moss especially, of course. And watering, again, you just want to keep it moist. Moss likes to be moist. And that's about it. So if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel and rate the video. Let me know what you think of it. Comment in the comment section. If you have any questions, you can comment there, and I usually can answer the questions. And if you make something like this, please send me a picture by email. My email address is on the About section of my channel page. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and have a great day.